All right, so we are back here. So we've got a few more questions for you. Just want to touch a little bit on your personal platform and your goals if you were to be elected for governor this year. So question related to your obstacles and how you would potentially overcome that. So for North Carolina, what do you think would be the number one obstacle as governor, and how would you address that?
Well, the number one obstacle as governor would be the General Assembly. That's the legislature. Now, I don't think that is an obstacle that is insurmountable, because in politics right now you only have Team Red and Team Blue. All the Republicans have to do is be against the Democrats, and all the Democrats have to do is be against the Republicans. When that happens, nothing changes. But if you had somebody who isn't a Republican and isn't a Democrat, who's from a completely different party, occupying the seat of power in one of the branches of government, so that would be the governor's seat, suddenly you have to have, at the very least, to get anything done, a bipartisan solution. Now, I think you'd have Republicans and Democrats coming together to overrule the Libertarian, but you know what? That's acceptable, because at the very least, it would require the other two parties to be better, to negotiate with each other, to actually do stuff for the people of the state. And if nothing else, I would work with anybody, any party that wanted to work with me on the issues that are important, not only to me, but to the people and communities across the state.
Yeah, that's great.
So then on the flip side of the obstacle, what would be something that's on your platform that you want to see changed as a more positive outlook, like a goal?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I really want to change, something I really want to see change, and this is a personal thing for me, is reforms to the CON laws in North Carolina. So CON stands for Certificate of Need. And, most people may not know what that is, but basically it's a permission slip to be able to provide medical services. So I'll give you an example from a doctor in the Greensboro area, Dr. Singh. He was a gastroenterologist, and he was offering X-rays, CAT scans, ultrasounds, and occasionally MRIs at his clinic. He posted the prices out in front of his door. $25 for an X-ray, $50 for a CAT scan, things like that. And he would be able to offer MRIs every now and then for about between $500 and $700 by renting time on a mobile MRI machine. He thought to himself, well, I can do this more often and be more profitable if I just owned an MRI machine. And then I could just have, provide MRIs for between $250 and $700, which is not necessarily cheap, but more on par with a significant car repair, right? It's certainly better than going to the hospital and paying thousands of dollars for the same procedure. Well, this guy, Dr. Singh, he's like, well, this is America. If I need a piece of equipment to offer good quality health care services to people, who I'm caring for, I can just go buy that equipment, right? Wrong. He had to go to the hospital. He had to apply for a certificate of need, which costs money. So MRI machines cost almost $500,000. He had to pay $250,000 for a certificate of need for the application. And then once you get the certificate of need, then it goes to the hospital, and the hospital decides whether there is actually a need for those services in their area.
And now with a lot of these hospitals being privatized.
But if the hospital says no, then, well, you can give us $250,000 next year for another application. Now, let me ask you a question, and I want your viewers, or listeners rather, to think about this. If you have a hospital, and they're making between $7,000 and $20,000 a pop on MRIs, and some doctor says, hey, I want to operate in your area and offer MRIs for $500, what do you think they're going to say?
Of course not.
No, not at all.
And that's the law. It's the law in North Carolina. I want to see that changed. It keeps healthcare costs artificially high. In a time when healthcare concerns are greater than ever, when people are losing their jobs more than ever, the fact that we have a law on the books that only seeks to reduce access to care and keep prices high, I think that's criminal.
Wow. I've never heard of that certificate of need. As much as healthcare has always been at the forefront of almost every presidential campaign, nobody has broken that down or even given that example of how healthcare prices are artificially inflated for no apparent reason.
And that makes even more
criminal.
sense why you see Novant taking over entire areas, and because if they can dominate it, then they've got that control.
Wow, that's
awful. Well, that would be great to see that
I can
changed.
give you another example of a healthcare procedure: cataract surgery.
Okay.
Doctors Without Borders, they remove cataracts in mud huts in third world countries.
Right.
Obviously, this isn't a procedure that has to be done in the most strictest quality of care areas, as long as you have a skilled doctor that can perform surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors Without Borders, they give sight to millions of people in less than optimal circumstances across the world. But in North Carolina, if you're going to remove a cataract, you can only do it in a certified eye surgery center.
Wow.
And just think about what it might cost to do eye surgeries.
Mm.
And most eye surgeries are done on the old in the U.S. So most of it, everything is geared toward Medicaid and Medicare payments.
Mm-hmm.
And Medicaid and Medicare payments, as a government-provided system, don't really care about cost. But if you're a young man and you don't have access to that, and health insurance, no health insurance I've ever seen has covered eye surgery. And I know this for a fact because I have to go to an ophthalmologist every now and then for a problem with one of my eyes. Insurance doesn't cover that. That comes out of your pocket.
Wow.
So if you're a young person with an eye problem, well, having good vision apparently isn't necessary for a quality of life in the state.
Wow.
Well, I personally can attest to that. My grandma needed cataract surgery for years and years and years. And I remember when I was a child, she had to wait to get it because I guess she had to wait for Medicare, Medicaid option to be available for her to do that. And that now makes sense.
Yeah, and there's just no reason why that has to be the case. Government, the bureaucracy, it gets in the way of skilled people providing quality care to people who want it. Again, I think it's wrong that the government stands in the way of people getting what they need.
Right. That's the opposite of what the government is there to do in this for. Wow.
I agree. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, repeal CON laws. That's my pet issue. That's the big one I care about.
Yeah, that's something I'm going to start looking into that. And
and we'll
hope our listeners
add some links and info and on about that too.
Yeah, it's always good to get that
I
information.
There's an organization called the Institute for Justice. They actually took Dr. Singh's case when he was suing the state of North Carolina for its unconstitutional CON laws. Unconstitutional per the North Carolina state constitution, mind you, not just the national.
Wow.
And that suit got drawn out for years and years by government-paid lawyers, paid for by your tax money, before it eventually went to the Supreme Court of North Carolina. And then it just so happened that during COVID, Dr. Singh's business, his practice, went out of business because of the costs incurred, by the COVID shutdown. And that case was thrown out because, sorry, you're no longer in business. You no longer have standing in the case. I guess we don't have to rule on it.
Wow, what a waste of money.
That's our government at work for you. And that's one of the things I really want to change. We don't have a system in place that works for the people of North Carolina. We have a system where people work for themselves. People in power and in institutions of power work for their own benefit. And we all suffer the consequences.
Right.
As someone who's outside of that, sees the injustice and is moved by it, I want change.
Yes. And that's kind of leading into, kind of segue into like the last question. Let's say it's 2030. You've served like 2 terms as governor of North Carolina. What are the people saying about your legacy?
They'll say that this is a guy who worked really hard for everyday people, for working class Americans, for middle class Americans, for the people of North Carolina, for the common good, because he cares for the people. I will never work for my own enrichment. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in a state that is the greatest state to live, work, and raise a family in. I truly believe North Carolina has that potential. We have the potential as a state to be a place where everyone can seek out common prosperity, to live their best life. I want that. And to leave behind a state where you have more people living high quality lives than ever before. I mean, what better legacy could every politician want?
That's perfect. That's perfect. And that's what we want. That's what the people would want.
Yeah, that's why we choose to stay here as opposed to going other places ourselves. You know, we've had the opportunity to move to Dallas more than once, where our headquarters is with our full-time job, and we've chose to stay here. So that would be ideal for so many people in this state.
Yeah, I can empathize. You know, I left New York in search of greater opportunity years ago, and I fell in love with North Carolina. I don't want to live anywhere else.
Right.
And if there's something I can do to make my home better, you know, to work for the betterment of the lives of my fellow countrymen, man, you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to do everything I know how to do to fight for what's right.
Right. I got it.
So I have one more pressing question as a now North Carolinian. Tar Heels or Blue Devils?
Charlotte Knights.
Oh,
Nice.
all right. You can have that one. I'm a Tar Heel till the day I die.
Yeah, me too. How about barbecue?
It's okay. I won't hold that against you.
Let's go there. You like Lexington style barbecue or
what's the other?
The Carolina Coast or Eastern Carolina barbecue, a sweet or vinegar?
So I was first introduced to barbecue in Colorado County, which is on the Crystal Coast, right by the southern Outer Banks barrier islands, you know, Belk Sound, Swansboro, New Bern. And I was first introduced to it out there, along with Hush Puppies, which I learned was more than just a brand of shoes. I just fell in love with how they do it out there.
Gotcha. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I miss Smithfield was my favorite when I lived in Wilmington.
Okay, I gotcha.
We don't have that here. Well,
I will say I've had the opportunity to have barbecue over in Texas. Some people say Texas barbecue is better than any other barbecue. I would respectfully disagree.
Yeah.
Where in North Carolina you are, you're going to get superior barbecue.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you so much for taking this chunk of time out of your busy day. We really appreciate talking with you and learning a little bit about your platform.
Who you are. I feel like we know you a little bit better now. Not just the name.
That's the name of the game, right?
Exactly.
I do appreciate the opportunity. And I'm always available for, you know, the people, advocacy groups, organizations of the state working in their own way to make life better for their communities.
Awesome.
Whatever I can be called upon to do, know that if it's in my power to do something, to advocate for something, to help out, to broadcast, you know, I'm there. I'm there for you and for the communities across the state.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time. We appreciate you, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll follow you.